started. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to Brooklyn's Place for hosting us. The Talbot County Commission on Aging was formed to advocate for the senior population in our county. Please welcome our moderator, Corey Pack, President of the Talbot County Council since 2007. Corey has an extensive bio, and so forgive me if I forget anything. Corey was born in Baltimore, Maryland. He attended Dundalk High School, where he was recognized as a scholar athlete in 1982 by the Greater Baltimore chapter of the National Football Foundation. Mr. Pack attended the University of Delaware, graduating in '87 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice. Mr. Pack recently retired from the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services after 25 years of service. In 2013, the Department of Public Safety recognized him as Employee of the Year. In 2007, Mr. Pack served as President of Talbot Partnership. From 2004 to 2006, he served as facilitator of the Dorchester County Young Fathers Group. He currently chairs the Young Fathers Group of Talbot County. He serves on the Neighborhood Service Center Board of Directors and is a member of the Talbot County Department of Social Services Board. Mr. Pack previously served as the chairperson of the Caroline County Drug and Alcohol Abuse Council. He is currently chairperson of the Justice Reinvestment Act, the JRA local government. In 2010, Mr. Pack was recognized by the Talbot Partnership for his outstanding community contributions and was appointed by the governor to the Criminal Justice Information Advisory Board. In 2012, he was recognized by the Talbot County branch of the NAACP for his community activism. He is a 2015 graduate of the Matco Academy for Excellence in Local Governance. Mr. Pack is married to the former Maria Jones, who also grew up in Baltimore. The Packs have 3 children, Corey Jr., Candace, and Tori. Mr. Pack is also the former coordinator of the New Hope Jail Ministry, is an active member of the Union Baptist Church in Easton. Please welcome Mr. Corey Pack.
Well, thank you, Lauren, for that very lengthy and tiresome bio. I'm going to have to get someone from the county to kind of rewrite that thing, but I appreciate the introduction. Welcome to everybody, and thanks again to Brooklyn's Place for hosting this forum. We hope that you will find it interesting and enlightening as we speak to your local delegation regarding health care, and especially regarding the senior population here in Talbot County and throughout the district. As Lauren said, my name is Corey Pack from your county council, and what I'd like to do first before introducing our panel is just give you a brief ground rules of how this is going to work tonight. I do have a series of questions that have been provided to me. These questions came from you all. They came from the senior population. Jennifer and her staff sent out questionnaires. I believe some of those questionnaires were here at the senior center, in which they took your questions regarding health care here in the district. They then took those questions and they pared them down and put them into a format, and I do have those questions that we'll go over tonight. Each of the representatives will have 3 minutes to answer the question, and then what we'll do is that we'll go in reverse order. So we'll go right to left, and then Chris will take the first one, starting back the other way. We'll also have, at the end, you should have received at the table a sheet of paper that we ask to provide your name and your address. And if you have any questions related to health care and senior population, whether it's housing, transportation, please go ahead and fill that out. And we're going to collect those slips approximately around 5:10 towards the end of the session. And then we'll go ahead and go through those questions, and we'll read your questions from the floor as well. Okay? So that's going to be how we're going to run things this evening. Again, thank you very much. This program is entitled How to Make Talbot County a Livable Community for Seniors. And we are very blessed here to have a very robust senior population here in Talbot County. The last census data that I remember seeing is that Talbot County still ranked amongst the highest counties in Maryland when it came to senior population. So I think we were still around number 1 and number 2, which is a good thing. That means people are still coming here to retire and coming here to live, and they still find the quality of life here in Talbot County a desirable place to live. So thank you very much for being here this evening. We're still waiting for Delegate Mouse to come, but we're going to go ahead and be respectful of your time. So let me go ahead with the introduction. To my immediate left, we have with us Senator Eddie Eckert. Don't read the long bio. Okay. Well, I'll jump through here. Senator Eckert, as you all know, was elected to the House of Representatives in 1994. Senator Eckert now serves in the Senate of Maryland, representing District 37, which is Caroline, Dorchester, Talbot, and Wacomico County. As this is her second term on the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee, she is also a member of the Maryland Environmental Trust, the Behavioral Health Advisory Council, the Governor's Commission on Suicide, the Commission on the Study of Mental and Behavioral Health in Maryland, and the Maryland Sexual Assault Evidence Kit Policy and Funding Committee. Senator Eckert is married to her husband, Dick Eckert. They currently reside in Cambridge. They have 3 married sons, 9 grandchildren, and the Eckerts are active at Christ Episcopal Church in Cambridge. Please give a warm hand for Senator Eckert. We also have with us Delegate Chris Adams. Delegate Adams grew up in Salisbury. He is a 5th generation Eastern Shoreman. He is currently the president of his family-owned business, Value Carpet One, and president of his family's real estate business. He was elected to the Maryland House of Delegates in November 2014. He is currently serving his 2nd term. He was re-elected in 2018, representing District 37B, which includes Caroline, Dorchester, Talbot, and Wacomico counties. Chris is a member of the House Economic Matters Committee, where he serves on 3 subcommittees. He is also chair of the Dorchester County House of Delegation and treasurer of the Eastern Shore Delegation. Delegate Adams' public service includes current membership to the Mid-Shore Regional Council, the Tri-County Council for the Lower Eastern Shore of Maryland, and the Salisbury Chamber of Commerce. Chris is married and has 3 wonderful children. Please give a warm hand for Delegate Chris Adams. He's en route, but let's go ahead and introduce to you Delegate Johnny Mouse. Delegate Mouse attended elementary, middle, and high school in St. Michael's and Easton before graduating from Brewster Academy in 1989. He received a bachelor's degree from the University of Dayton in 1994 and a Juris Doctorate degree from Ohio Northern University in 1997. He is an avid outdoorsman. He has played in various sport leagues in the area, including the 1982 Little League World Series, which he'll tell you about over and over and over again, which they made it all the way to the World Series in Williamsport. After being admitted to the Maryland Bar, he worked as a legislative lawyer for the House Judiciary Committee and as an advisor to Governor Ehrlich in Annapolis. Johnny is married to Rebecca in 2005. They reside in St. Michael's and are the proud parents of 2 wonderful children, little Johnny, age 12, and Evelyn, age 9. The final member of their family is their trusted and loyal yellow Labrador retriever, Roxy. Johnny is the son of former Eastern dentist, Dr. John Mouse, whom many of us remember, and a community leader, his wonderful mother, Miss Diana Mouse. His brother Dan is also a volunteer fireman and Red Cross emergency responder. Currently, Delegate Mouse operates a family business in St. Michael's while representing legislative District 37B in the House of Representatives here in Maryland. And give a warm hand of applause to Delegate Mouse. So, thank you all so much for being with us and for all that you do for the constituents here in the district. And we're going to go ahead and start with the first question. And Senator Acker, that question will go to you first and then down the road to Chris. Here's our first question. And if you can't hear me, just let me know and I'll try to speak up even louder. What ideas do you have to improve access to quality health care on the shore? And Senator Acker, we'll start with you.
All right, you want me to, am I to stay here or stand up?
Yeah. You can do it however you like. There is a microphone right here if you need it.
So, can you hear me? Okay. So, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you. And what I'm going to do, and who has the clock?
I was just asked that same question. You'll go ahead. You're fine. We'll figure it out. Johnny's not here, so you'll have
Yeah, but my question is, how are we going to improve access to quality health care here on the shore, and I would say particularly the mid-shore? And there are a number of things. First of all, everybody needs to remember that we are moving from hospital-based care to community-based care. And if many of you were around long enough, and it looks like many of you were, you remember when we deinstitutionalized Eastern Shore Hospital Center, right? We were able to decrease the inpatient population as long as we created the community resources. But what happened? We ended up hospital and we didn't have all the resources in place. We've had some, but not all of them. And I would suggest to you we're in the same boat now. We have gone ahead, we've expanded Medicaid, so we have more people than ever. In fact, we had over 800,000 folks who were uninsured in Maryland. Today we have about 160 to 180,000. We still have quite a few on the shore. In certain zip code areas, actually Dorchester County and Wycomico County, that we need to get folks who are eligible enrolled. Because as we get everybody into the healthcare delivery system, we have a better idea of the workforce, we have a better idea of what the cost will be. So we are moving from a hospital-based care to community care, and we have a little hiccup along the way because we've never really developed the workforce. To me, that is the biggest issue we are facing. 20 years ago, we did a study to look at the physician shortage in the rural areas, and 20 years since, we still don't have our rural residency program in place. But guess what? It's supposed to happen in the next 2 years. So finally, we got everybody to come to the table, and that's going to happen. And hopefully, that will give us, probably maybe 4 new docs on the upper shore and the lower shore, so maybe we get 8 out of that opportunity. One of the things in Maryland, because we're an all-payer system and we have a lot of agreements with CMS, which is the federal funding for health care, where the dollars come down, we do not reimburse or compensate our physicians to the extent they are compensated in other places, particularly other states. So that's another issue that we have to address. One of the other ways that we thought that we could expand our workforce pool was to put in a tax credit incentive for nurse practitioners and for physicians. And that has produced a number of folks, and I know there's going to be an effort this year to expand that to other upper level healthcare professionals. We have a severe shortage. Psychiatrists, folks who are working in behavioral health particularly. Oh wow, okay. So I could go on for a long time. But that is one of the things that we will be working on addressing. The other thing is having a good system of care from birth to... Thank you very much. I finished. You're next.
Well, why don't we go ahead and let Delegate Adams respond.
We'll let Johnny warm up for a minute here.
Yeah.
So we're interested in what quality health care, what we're advocating for.
Right.
So I'm a small business owner. I have 36 employees, so I think regularly about what that insurance costs for my employees. The costs we're talking about retirees and aging population. But just from a business perspective, I am very concerned about supply and demand. Doctors in the state of Maryland are shortages. When my employees say that I have a hard time finding the right doctor here locally, that's not just my problem as an employer and me offering insurance. It's everybody's problem. So Senator Eckhart caught a lot of the issues, but let me just say first and foremost, residency is a huge issue and something that we have to get figured out on the shore. 40% of those doctors who work in a residency program stay in the community for which they have that residency. In their fourth year, when they're doing rotations, that same statistic matters, because where you work, where you live is also where you meet your spouse, where you love to do things like on the Eastern Shore, go to the beach. So when we're trying to bring people from outside of our community here, it becomes very difficult because you have to sell people who are from the big city, a lot of where these universities are, on what our culture is, what our way of life is. It's slower here on the Eastern Shore. I love it. So we have to find a way to get residency to matter. And the other important point is that when we talk about the student loan debt that a 4-year doctor comes out, on average, that's $250,000. They can go to Virginia and earn 25% more than they could in similar jobs here in Maryland. So we've got to find ways to compete. When I talk about as a business owner, competition is all about how can we offer something that other states are not offering. And I'll just be blunt with you. We have to find a way to resolve the student loan debt for our doctors, to incentivize them to come to our state, and nurse practitioners. So it's not just doctors. It's everyone that goes through a 4-year degree with extraordinary debt. How can Maryland define something unique and differentiated? We have a $46 billion budget. I think we can figure this one out. And I think I'm coming close to my 3 minutes. My clicker works pretty good. So I'm going to pass the mic to our freshly arriving co-delegate, John House.
Yeah. And
Do you need the question again, Doug? Yeah, they gave you a rousing ovation, I read about it. I had to quiet them down. So welcome to you, sir. Do you need the question read, or do you have it there in front of you?
I think I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm okay. And first, I apologize for being late. I was in Pete a while ago. I was intending to fully be here early and ready to go, and then I had a last-minute request that I could not say no to. So I tried to do 2 things at once, and of course, I've wound up a little bit late. You've heard a lot about different aspects of improving care in the area, and there's one that I want to highlight on, and that's the need for the new hospital. To me, moving the ball forward and taking healthcare services in this area to the next level is completely hinged to our ability to build a new hospital. And that's an effort that, I'm a little leery to make a prediction on where we are with that, because the ball continues to move every instance. When we think we've made one step closer to breaking ground and starting construction and building a new hospital and bringing all those resources and services to the midshore, it seems like another bar is put before us, another hook is put before us. And as we keep jumping through hooks, I think everybody's kind of running out of patience on where we're going to go. There has been competition added to the area. Anne Arundel has opened up a pavilion in Talbot County. Some have said that's a good thing. Some have argued that's going to undermine our efforts to build a new hospital. Life is difficult, and there's transformation continually occurring. You can't control what's going to happen in the future, but I don't let those comments distract me from the focus on moving forward and pushing to get a new hospital. I wish I had a positive thing to say. Here's where you can expect the next step to go and where we're headed. I don't know where that is right now, but I do know that everybody that's involved in the process wants to move forward with putting a new hospital up in the location that's been positioned. Money is a big factor. And I know Shore Health is not here. We get routine updates from Shore Health, but as far as our effort to improve care in the area, the number one factor is going to be constructing that new hospital. I'll keep my remarks brief.
Thank you very much.
Talbot Health is the other piece of that, so stay tuned.
And we will get an update from Mr. Cazell shortly, in which the community will be aware of what's happening in the hospital. That will come about shortly.
Great.
The next question, and we're going to start, Johnny, actually going to start with you on this one, so you can hold on to the mic. And your question is, what steps are you taking to increase affordability of both healthcare and medicine?
Okay, that is a very good, that's a very hot topic. There are a lot of issues to discuss. One in particular that's near and dear to my heart is the retirement, the benefit, the prescription retirement benefit for state employees. That is an important issue for a lot of our constituents, a lot of retirees who lost their prescription benefit. That was a budgetary move that was implemented years ago. It's currently pending right now in the courts, the legality of making that change. Legislation was passed last year to create a new program that would lower the burden of prescription drugs. However, it would not restore those retirees' benefits to where they were before that budgetary change took place. So retirees would still be taking an increase in their prescription drugs. We're going to have a big discussion. The focus point, I think, of the upcoming session is going to be funding. You know, we're proposing, I've heard propositions of $6 billion for education. Meanwhile, we have this looming cost for retirees and retiree prescription benefits. To me, if we're going to talk about opening up a window and spending billions of dollars on a new area, that the state ought to stop and take a look at what they've taken away from some of their retirees. That would be an enormous step. That doesn't cover everybody. It's just for state retirees. But if we're spending billions of dollars, then the state needs to think really long and hard about its commitments and its guarantees to its retirees. Last year, and Senator Eckert and Delegate Adams will provide more information about the price review board. That price review board was only for state prescription plans. We've looked at other states that have other forms of auctions and things to make prescription drug pricing more affordable. Those are propositions that will come up this session. In fact, we offered an amendment to that prescription drug board that was enacted last year. And I imagine those will come up again this session. And there are things that I intend to support. Now, I'm speaking off the cuff. And so rather than randomly carry on with some ideas, I'm going to turn the microphone over. So
it goes to
So again, Delegate Mouse and I serve on Economic Matters Committee. Free enterprise, competition are very important in the world I live in. Quite often healthcare gets it backwards. More government, which creates more regulation, and in some cases barriers between customers and the businesses. Johnny brought up the issue of the price board. And let me just say I voted against that bill primarily because that board had no ability, as legislation passed, to actually affect price of prescriptions. Now, a number of years down the road, they may have the ability to cap prescription costs, but as it stood today, it was a lot of talk, not a lot of action. And the amendment that Johnny talked about was the amendment I brought, which would have brought New Jersey's reverse auction process forward. So the 2 points you need to know about a reverse auction. One, PBMs should be put in competition amongst one another. Pharmacies, pharmacists, pharmaceuticals, competition is what drives costs down, in my opinion. So a reverse auction puts PBMs in a spot where they compete against one another, driving costs down as opposed to an auction where you're trying to get the maximum cost. Frankly, government is the regular auction. It seems like how high can we go, and then we complain when the prices are so high. So let me just say to you that anytime we talk about the federal government or the state government, be mindful of how much government can play a role in the lack of access to care. In many cases, the way they drive costs down is to make it difficult to get prescriptions, to make it difficult to get access to the doctor, to get access to the healthcare system. I'm not saying that we're there today in Maryland. We have an all-payer system that I believe works, although it's basically through the lens of the government the federal government giving us multi-billions of dollars, which it only costs us a few $100 million. So why would we say no to that? But I am concerned on a federal level as we talk about quality and affordability that the government is not going to be in the long run the way that we get there. And I remain concerned as a fifth generation member of this community a rural community where costs are going to be higher, where my children, I want them to have the same care that I have and that my parents had. So with that, I'll pass the message along.
Thank you. Senator.
Thank you very much. There are a couple of things, and I think, first of all, regarding the prescription review board, I did vote for that, and one of the reasons I did is that it puts a wide spectrum of folks at the table to review the high cost of certain prescriptions, and then give a report back to the state on what that is. So it's not just working through the Department of Health's drug formulary. It's looking at cost, what's happening across the state. And I thought that would give us much more information on making determination on how we can bring those costs down. The other issue I would like to talk about also is the PBM. Does everybody know what a PBM is? PBM is a pharmacy benefit manager. It was a piece of legislation that was passed probably back in the early 2000s, late 90s, and it was a way that a pharmacy benefit manager company could come in and kind of pool all those benefits and then kind of act as a broker back to the local pharmacies. What that does is it adds another level, in my mind, of bureaucracy in the mix. So that's one more group of people who have to make money to save money, which made no sense to me at the time. And we are seeing now the high cost of that, because what the pharmacy benefit managers are doing is they're undercutting the cost of doing business to our local pharmacies. And I think our local family pharmacies are critical to providing quality health care, because they do the education, they do the drug-drug interactions, they do the drug-food interactions, they help people monitor their prescriptions, tell them what's working or not working, and they're also able to help them stick to the regime. Don't stop it too quickly, take it regularly when to take it. And if pharmacy benefit managers don't care about who gets the health teaching, they just want to make sure that they're getting paid and making money. So then outside of the law, that was in the law, outside of the law, they created another extra level who now are getting a piece of the pie to further undercut our family pharmacies. And we are trying to work through the insurance commissioner to be able to get a handle and put some regulations in place to slow this train down, because those same pharmacy benefit managers are also doing contracts with bigger businesses as well. So it doesn't work as well as I think it could. The other issue is the overuse of pain medication and opioids, and we've seen what's happened with the high costs of those medications, and people can find alternatives to using certain medications.
Thank you very much.
So I'll hold on to
Let's give them a big round of applause so far through this first segment. You all get those pesky phone calls in the evening, people calling us, Johnny and Chris and Senator, trying to sell us everything from vacation properties to solar panels, right? So the next question deals with how to reduce the fraud and scams targeting our senior population. And Delegate Adams, we're going to start with you.
Thank you, Corey. And, we're all, as American, trusting souls. We like to believe the people that we're doing business with or communicating with. Obviously, the phone removes a level of one-on-one. So as we move forward in the healthcare world, as with anything that we do, whether it's the a call from the IRS or just calls from somebody wanting to sell a vacation, we've got a real issue on our hand that's been going on for some time now, where the phone and where the television makes claims, makes promises, and we like to believe those things that are too good to be true. And what's the answer? Anytime government has a role, and a positive role, it's going to be regulating and controlling for the safety of the citizens in our state. When we have, in our country, so when we have people who are telemarketing, I get 5 or 6 of these myself on my cell phone. I simply know just stop listening to them, just ignore them, try to block them. But the point is that folks that are elderly are used to being trustworthy souls. That's who we are, and that's the society we live in, and they are inherently subject to this type of behavior. I'll take another path because we identified the problem, but the solution is completely federal. We watch bills and the legislature try to control telemarketing in this way and limiting that, and it's not a state issue, it's a federal preemption. My mother, who's gets prescriptions, and quite often what will happen, she'll get a bill for something, and it's one of these things, well, why did she have to actually pay for that? And she'll be showing it to me. She's astute, she's aware, she's also financially capable of paying a bill that's being presented to her without asking a whole lot of questions. Well, let me simply say to you, as a son who cares about my mom, looking at some of these things and thinking, why is that insurance company charging you for that? Didn't your insurance cover that? And through a strong kind of push back and forth, you end up getting to the right answer. And in some cases, it equals a positive resolution, at least on a couple cases with my mother. But all my employees have the same sort of issue with the insurance companies. It's almost like the insurance companies send a bill through if you're going to pay it. Great, but honestly, how many times are you being billed for something that you shouldn't be paying for? And I've seen that happen enough instances in my life to know that may not be fraud and that may not be a scam, but for people that can't afford the basics in life, when you have these kind of scenarios playing out with insurance companies that are playing in a marketplace where there's less competition in the state of Maryland, fewer participants in the marketplace, fewer opportunities for us to shop and compare quality and service, you create these inherent problems in the marketplace. And again, it won't be the last time you hear me say it, when you have less competition, you have more monopolistic behavior, and it becomes then the government's job to regulate a monopolistic environment. It's problematic. And it's a hard push to get a few participants to do the right thing in that scenario. I believe that the fix for that is to make sure that we keep the government as much out of the hands of individual relationships between consumers and their doctors, consumers and the healthcare system. I know that's a global conversation. It's not just a Maryland issue, but in my heart, it is inherent in my belief system and what is right by our citizens here on the shore.
Senator Ector, please.
Two things. Unfortunately, it's a federal issue, so whenever you get those calls, call your congressman. And the other person call is the Attorney General, the Office of Consumer Protection, and I believe they usually put out a hot list, those scams that are running around the community. Like I got one last week, and it was, please call the Social Security Administration immediately because somebody has your Social Security number. When you get those kinds of calls, the Social Security Administration does not call you on the phone. They will contact you by certified mail. So, and a lot of those scams do get registered in the Office of the Attorney General, and they do then work with our congressional delegation to be able to address that. And I would just say, so don't hesitate to pick up that phone and let them know it's circulating again, because you never know when somebody hasn't done that and they can get a handle on it. And the other piece of information, I think, be very careful. If you have a cell phone that has your email address, there's a lot of email scams running around. So be careful what you click into. Because that's another source of contamination or viruses or fraud that's going around, and don't send anybody any money unless you know them.
Good training.
So my rule on this is, you don't, if everybody calls you to pay a bill, you don't ever pay it until they turn the lights off. And once the lights are turned off, then you know you got to pay your bill. This is a huge problem. It's $1 billion industry fraud. It's domestic. It's international. You wouldn't know this, but just last year, nearby, someone who actually apprehended the conspirators who had taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from someone, and they had come back for more. And they had taken the hundreds of thousands of dollars and was reported to the authorities, and then the people had come back from Georgia to take more money from this retiree, and they apprehended the person and prosecuted him. That's the rare case. Being able to apprehend cyber criminals is a challenge that law enforcement quite hasn't figured out how to do. They can identify who the perpetrators are, they can find out where it's coming from, but then to bring a case in court is very complicated. Also, regulating telephones is very complicated. I put legislation in, I think all of us have voted on legislation at the state level, at the federal level. There's an umbrella, there's a magic iron veil over telephone communications and clearly over the internet that has prohibited us from regulating the calls that are being made and some of the emails that are being sent. I'm very proactive in this. I get a lot of phone calls because I help my mom out with her stuff, and people call me to tell me like my Social Security is going to be changed, and it's mom's, or her phone bill's overdue. And to me, the best thing that we can do is educate our seniors. Explain to them the dangers of these devices, these phones. All your personal information is in here. Sometimes just going to the wrong website can give that site the ability to go into your computer or into your phone and take your personal information. And once they have your personal information, it's the Wild West, and it's very scary. That's why places like Brooklyn Center, our senior center here and all around are really important. But we really have not developed a good message for seniors and for the general public. Children right now are on these devices, and their information is going on the internet. So to me, one of the best things we can do to prevent fraud is to educate and spread that word. And that should be a priority. It hasn't been a priority. And when I read this question, it caught my attention. It's like, you never know when you're not doing enough. And it made me look in the mirror, and this ought to be a priority because it's happening to everyone. So I apologize for going on, and I'm sorry there isn't a silver bullet, but really we need to do a better job of educating everyone. Those little cameras on your computer, the people know how to access your computer and watch you while you're on your computer. It's very scary, and that is, thank you for bringing the question up. Nobody's priority.
Thank you, sir. Delegation, I believe we were all down in Cambridge last month for the groundbreaking of the intergenerational building with Talbot Community Service, and Santa Grande and his staff did a wonderful job providing transportation here in the metro area. With that being said, the next question deals with how can the state help increase its accessibility and availability of transportation for our seniors? And Senator Eckert, we'll start that question with you.
Well, all of our transportation dollars that go into mass transit are actually split, but not evenly, between taking care of our roads and bridges, our highway user revenues, and then mass transit. And much more goes into mass transit than goes into our roads and bridges. As you know, over the past 5 years, there's been about a 90% reduction in those funds that come back to the locals. So that's why you're seeing a lot of potholes, and you will see more potholes because of that balance. One pot of money, does it go for mass transit in the metropolitan areas, or does it come to the rural areas and go for mass transit or for roads and bridges? So the state awards a certain amount, and Santa Grande Community Services is one of the biggest vendors on the shore and does the RUSC system. And they get funding based on ridership and miles utilized. So that's how it is funded. It's never enough, and that's why it's really important that as we move forward with community care, I think there are going to be expectations that more and more people also provide their own transportation as a piece of the healthcare delivery system. And I know there's been discussion in Annapolis that be factored into the cost of healthcare, not only just through transportation, highway user revenues that go into mass transit, but do we roll that into then insurance coverage? Because we know, like with the Medicaid program, there are additional monies that come down to be able to help the most vulnerable folks get to their appointments. So that's a piece of it. Another way that we will be able to reduce transportation costs then are to be able to access more telehealth. And we have put a number of initiatives in place so that we can kind of Skype or we can do telehealth monitoring. And in fact, I think in the future, whether we like it or not, the people who are watching us, we will probably be able to have an app on our phone so that we can look up all the information about our health plan, and we can look up monitoring, and other people can monitor that with us. And there are already some pretty fancy systems in place to be able to do that. So I think we're going to look for other ways in addition to just the cost of transportation, but other ways to be able to reach folks in their homes.
Thank you, Senator. Delegate Powell.
We never know who you're going to call next.
I know, that's all I'm saying, that's right.
This is an age-old problem in all rural areas in Maryland. We don't have the population, and it's harder to get to where we need to go. And so, how are you going to fix that problem? And the problem continues. And the funding formulas, in my view, in my short time, it becomes more difficult and more challenging for rural areas to compete for state dollars. And a lot of our transportation programs are funded through state dollars. Healthcare, I think Senator Eckert is dead on. We've got some great plans in this short area, both through Eastern Utilities and through Choptank Electric, trying to expand our technology. The plan is there's a potential where we could affect some changes where Eastern Utilities and Choptank Electric will be able to wire high-speed broadband to individual homes. That would be a big plus for being able to do telehealth, among many other things, which would alleviate some necessity for travel. The other types of travel where people need to get out of the house is very important. Even just that alone can be a therapy, is to get out of the house and do things. And to me, one of the most viable options is some of the ride share and some of the ride programs that are out there. I know they haven't taken off, but I have seen Uber, I have seen Lyft, I have seen some independent services. It's Dorchester Community Services. DCS. The Delmarva Community Services or the Delmarva? I'm sorry. It's been a long day. I apologize. So Santo and Delmarva Community Services does a great job. They're proactive. But just for example, we had to set up a bus route in St. Michael's because of the closing of the Acme. Now that bus circulator is running that route, but the bus is very rarely full, and the people who use the bus need that bus route. But you wonder at what point does that mass transit in our rural area, where does it become effective and where is it ineffective? We need to keep that option available, but there's got to be a way we can be a little more effective and a little more precise and a little more flexible. I think everybody would like to have the ability to say 9:15 instead of 9:45 when they need to go somewhere. So the high speed, the technology, and developing some of these independent direct carrier services.
Thank you. Go ahead, Alex.
So the theme of the program is how to make Talbot County a livable community for seniors. And there's a phrase that I've learned through Senator Eckhart, social determinants of health, which can mean a lot of things, access to care, which obviously through the questions that we're hearing is a key element of what it takes to live in a community on a rural part of the state, but also entertainment, economic, jobs, wages, the environment we live in, and frankly, most importantly for seniors is going to be transportation network. So to keep the answer fairly simple, since Senator Eckhart now has covered a lot of it, we go through our regional councils, Mitchell Regional Council. I'm also on Tri-County Council and Lower Shore, where Shore Transit's located. Think for a minute about the size of our budget right now, the 45 or 46 billion dollars. We have a structural deficit coming up this year. Delegate Mounts brought up Kerwin, which can be heavy burdens for the state to lift. I can tell you that the governor is not going to want to raise taxes to do that, so we're going to be basically looking at how can we find dollars to make up for these defining changes in government. A lot of it's going to come down to the county level, making the counties pay for these sort of things. So think about the health departments. But when I think about transportation, is it possible that we go through these projects to improve transportation? And at that moment, we see success, and we do see success through our programs right now, short transit, Delmarva Community Services, that all of a sudden the money gets pulled out from underneath of us, and that burden then falls to others. And I'm very concerned. So when you ask the question, what are we going to do to keep the networks in place and frankly grow them, because they need to be grown in a rural part of our state, it is making sure that Annapolis doesn't create unfunded mandates on our county, but also does not create unfunded mandates for which at some point they have to look around in their budget, where are we going to find money for these other programs. So Kerwin, and I'll bring this up at the end, but we've got some real concerns. How are we going to get there, and how are we going to pay for it? You would rightly be concerned for very basic, essential government provided benefits like transportation could be hit because they've been hit in the past.
Thank you, Judge Adams. We talked earlier about scams and fraud and how to keep people safe with people calling on the phone. And we're blessed to live in an area where we don't have a crime rate that they do in other parts of the state. But we still have to try to keep ourselves focused and keeping one another safe. How do you support and help the most vulnerable seniors stay safe in our area? And we're going to start with Delegate Mounts.
How do we support
How do we support and help the most vulnerable seniors' safety?
How do we support that? Well, that's a kind of a loaded question. Is that one of our prepared questions?
That was a prepared question, yes. It was sent out to you a couple of days ago.
Well, the safety of our senior citizens. I mean, most of our safety is provided by law enforcement. We've got a very active sheriff's department. We've got a very active state police, and we've got very active municipal police. More and more, our seniors rely on the services of our emergency responders. There are frequent calls to the 911, and the 911 is the first line of defense and is the first line of phone call. Personally, I'm involved with a lot of our first responders and support them as much as I can, any way that I can. Not only because I know that when I need them, I hope they're there, but I hope they're there for everybody else, and they're critical. One of our challenges is that many of our first responders, and much of that network, it is a network of individuals, do this voluntarily. And there are some costs with that to keep them funded, but there's some real challenges, and we are blessed because other parts of the state don't enjoy the expertise and the dedication of the community the way that we do. So truly, I think one of the most important things that I do to try to assist, I feel like we're at a candidates debate or something, but I think we all do this. We all go to the breakfast, we go to the dinners together, but to me, one of the most important things we do as a community is support those emergency responders because they are an essential part of that first line of when you need help and when you call for help. They're the ones who respond, even the ones who aren't on duty. And I will continue to support them.
Thank you, Joey. And something I think we're going to go with,
Sure.
no, we're going to go to Delegate Adam, not Adam. Sorry, I reached up on my cards there.
I'm trying to leave something for the senator to talk about. So I'm looking at the camera, and it's not often that I try to put my business in front of the world of politics. That doesn't always work well in the political environment. But let me just say I'm a small developer. We own about 80 rental properties. One project I cared so much about that we bought it 2 years ago. It's an affordable housing, elderly housing project in Fruitland. 47 units. And the reason why we bought that was because we knew that we could finance it in a way that would keep the project as it stood in place for elderly, for folks on limited income. So a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom unit below market rent in the high 600, low 700 a month range. These are things that matter a great deal to me. So that's a personal mission of mine that I don't mind sharing in this one instance. But the issue is affordable housing, making it available for seniors. We do need more of that, by the way. I'm familiar with other developers that are growing with state support, with tax dollars and tax credits to grow affordable housing. Know that that is so essential in an aging community where people want to live where they've lived their entire life and not have to move and be displaced. The other thing that matters to me as a dad and a son is what happens with succession planning, what happens at the end of life. I think it's important that family members, when they can, make those decisions of free will, of free mind, do that sooner, educate our elderly, how important it is to have advanced directives. These are personal conversations, but everybody understands generally making sure that the ends are met. Palliative care, we have to make sure that we're there for our seniors in as responsible and as loving a way as possible. These are certainly government initiatives and imperatives. We talk about these sort of issues every day in the Maryland General Assembly. I'm there for you in that regard because it's relevant to every person that lives on the Eastern Shore as we're going through this walk of life. So with that being said, I care a great deal about our elderly. They are vulnerable, and so we've got to, as a government, understand what it takes, and it does take resources, it does take investment.
Thank you.
I think it's really important that we have a whole continuum of care. So all of us who are getting older, we need to make sure that we watch our diet and practice good health habits so that we can avoid unnecessary falls, unnecessary complication medication regimes, because that's what happens. 80% of the healthcare dollars are spent on 20% of the people, and usually the last 2 years of life or the first year of life. So just think about that. So if we can make it a continuum of care, aging in place at home to the extent we're able to, but then have adequate assisted living, which we don't have everywhere, and then kind of moving on to the next level of care. And as others have said, you need to plan for it. And that includes introducing hospice earlier rather than later, because we know that as people have social supports in place, the pain and suffering is less. The other issue that we have some innovative practices on is that I think it's in Queen Anne County maybe, the EMTs are also doing follow-up. So as we find our extenders for existing practitioners out in the community who are able to know, EMTs do two things. If somebody has a fall, if somebody has a heart attack, they know who those people are and they know when they're coming back in the community. So they check up on those folks, and that's been a real interesting initiative. The other thing that we've developed are community healthcare workers, and they're kind of health coaches in the community who can be embedded in a lot of different health practices. And they're folks who go out and check on other people to make sure that as we age in place, we have helpers with our plan of care and helpers to do transportation and shopping and those other services that we have. And I think that will become less costly as we develop those alternate models and then reduce that 80% of our dollars that go into 20% of the care, because we will be doing a little more preventative activity.
Thank you, Secretary. Those were the last of our prepared questions. I think we've collected all your questions from the floor. We're going to
Anyone has any, I can grab those. Okay.
So as we're collecting, I just want to let you all know what Senator Eckert was speaking about with the integrated mobile health care in Talbot County, as well as we'll be rolling that out shortly. That's where we're partnering with our health departments, where our EMT paramedics will be following up on visits with our most vulnerable population that use 911, and we'll be going out making wellness visits, if you would, to make sure we keep them safe. So that integrated health care model is coming also here to Talbot County. We'll wait for your questions to come so we can go ahead and get started on this portion. Commercial break.
I want to share with you one other thing while we're waiting for the questions. I sit on the Governor's Commission on Substance Use Disorder and Mental Illness, and it came to our attention that there's a big drop-off in services. People who are on Medicaid get availability of services. People in the private sector do not always have that same accessibility. So that's one of the things the Lieutenant Governor made it real clear. We're probably going to have some legislative initiatives on that, so that people don't have to spend down to be able to go into Medicaid because they can't get what they need for their family members in the private sector. We work hard on parity. The other issue is that when you turn 65 and go into Medicare, there's another big drop-off, whether you are on Medicaid or whether you're in the private insurance sector. Big difference we're hearing. And that's another issue we will be working on moving forward, so that there's a smooth transition, particularly if you have vulnerable folks in your family. One more thing that I need to talk about, there's something called the two-gen approach. That's two-generational model to interrupt multi-generational poverty. And so all of the departments in the executive branch of government, Department of Health, DHR, Juvenile Services, and others are working on this model that will be able to provide services wrapped around the families, not just the identified problem in the family, if you will, whether it's a kid or whether it's somebody who's incarcerated or whether it's a mom or a grandma or whoever, that the department's working to wrap around services through kind of an integrated system of care. So based on trauma-informed mental health first aid and the ACE scale. So it is a big undertaking. I'm impressed. But the proof is always in putting it in how it gets rolled out. So I think that will be helpful as we're able to mobilize resources for the family support going forward.
Thank you, Senator. As we're still waiting, I believe what Delegate Adams was speaking about regarding the Kerwin funding and how the state will be able to meet that dramatic dollar amount. And you're absolutely right. What we're looking at is what departments will be cut in order for the state to meet that number. When you're working with so little to begin with, anything more they take away from us is going to be really impactful, and we're going to feel it for a long, long time. So we're carefully watching and monitoring what's happening in Annapolis when we talk about Kerwin and that large number. If they take away money from our health department, that means maybe less programs to provide in schools, or less programs in integrated health that I just talked about, pairs a health officer or health official with our emergency paramedic. So if that funding is cut, perhaps that program doesn't get rolled out. So be watchful for that. And do we have the questions? Okay, great. Talk to anytime. Great. And I believe we ended with Senator Eckert, so we'll go back to the top of the deck with Delegate Adams. Oh. Okay? Back to the top of the deck. How do we increase insurance providers and plans, especially Medicare Advantage on the shore? So how do we increase insurance providers and plans, especially Medicare Advantage on the shore?
I'll say the Medicare Advantage for Hattie or Johnny to chime in. Just to go back to my original comment as a business owner offering insurance plans. We're part of a national cooperative, so I watch how other states allow interstate competition. You do it for a couple reasons, but ultimately it's to keep costs down, drive up the opportunity to get quality of insurance. So right off the bat, I'm thinking the state of Maryland in many ways has this backwards for reasons. Some I understand, but some, when I watch other states and what they're getting for their insurance dollar, it makes me blush, to be honest with you. So what can Maryland do? The only thing I can say to you is to the extent that we can encourage competition, to the extent that we can allow multiple insurance companies to exist in the state of Maryland in a profitable fashion, we need to figure out a way to do that. I'm not sure how I can answer that more fully, because it's actually a difficult thing to actually achieve in the state of Maryland, because it's not allowed. We're not allowed to have interstate competition.
No, I agree. It's a huge problem. The competition in our health insurance market really doesn't exist. It's very limited, and it's a challenge. And the insurance administrator has been here in Easton to discuss those challenges. I don't know exactly how we fix that offhand, but I appreciate whoever offered that question because it just reminds us once again, we've got a long list of rights when we get in front of the governor's cabinet secretaries and things to hit them on, but I don't have a simple answer on how to do that. Maybe Senator Anthony does.
We were able this year to stem the increase in cost of health insurance and make it a lot easier for additional companies to come into Maryland. So I know there were at least 2 new companies in, and I know we're going to be seeing at least one new one who's already indicated to me they want to come down on the shore. Heretofore we have 2, maybe 3, and it has to do with the number of covered lives, and we have a high Medicaid population. So that they're part of the constraints of living on the Eastern Shore. But we have been working, and that's through the government affairs, whether it's health and government in the House, and then Senate finance, to be able to make it easier for more companies to do business in Maryland. And just in case you're interested, when we did that, the rates of health choice that were anticipated to go up came down, and so did the other health insurance rates. So that's the first time in a long time, and that's good news. It's not where we all want it to be, because it costs I had a hip replaced, I'm telling everything, and I've had 2 surgeries this year, and if I had to pay every cent of that out of the pocket, I would have done it anyway. But I mean, it makes a big difference when you have a hip replacement and you have major surgeries, when you're going through clinical trials, and a lot of that is covered by your insurance plan. And that's thanks to everybody else who's able to contribute to that plan as well.
Thank you, sir. So like as Mark, we're going to pick up with you on this one. Let's stay in the Medicare realm if we could. Currently, Medicare is only available in our nursing homes here in Easton. The question is there a plan to bring the Medicaid waiver to assisted living here in Easton?
That sounds like a very good idea to me.
Tell by that shiny look in your eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I guess we can't have that discussion because these are all very incognito questions.
If you have any idea as to how to bring that assistance here, we would like to hear it, but if you want to pass on the question.
Well, it's the first time it's been brought up.
Yes.
It is, so I will find out. And how to bring the Medicaid thing.
Is there a plan to bring the Medicaid waiver
Right.
to assisted living here in Easton? The Medicare waiver is available for nursing homes, but not for assisted living, for that portion of
The
it.
Medicaid,
Waiver.
Medicare,
Medicaid or Medicare?
Medicaid. I'm reading the question as it's written, Medicaid waiver.
I'll find out. I need to know who to report back to.
I guess you can report back to Lee, or you can report back to Jen, or one of the,
That's what I'll do.
there you go. That is a very good
Because they
answer.
follow up on our Facebook page, so if everybody likes it, we're going to get responses and our website. There you go.
So if you,
I may actually write that down to make sure we have it accurate.
Sure.
so if anyone else have an answer to that one, we'll pass the mic. Now we can move on.
No, the only thing that I can say is that in Maryland, all of the waivers for long-term care are being consolidated. So that means all of the long-term waivers. That means disabilities. You know, we've had multiple waivers going on, and the state is in the process of consolidating those. And so a lot of that's going to change, but it will open it up so that there are more opportunities for folks. I know the biggest one I've been working on is how to get Medicaid to pay for medical adult daycare. To me, that would be a big return on investment, and we are still trying to sort that way out because a lot of families can't afford the $75 a day for medical adult day. And I'm not sure Medicaid pays for everybody. It does for some, not for everybody.
Chris, you should jump on that.
I think I know.
We're away from next.
I know where the question came from.
We're fortunate to have a senator who's an expert in healthcare.
Yeah. Hold on to that back. I got a nice, I have a nice softball for you. We're going to come back home to the hospital, if you would. The question is, why do we need a new hospital if healthcare is moving out of the hospital and into a community-based model?
So I can tell you from the first year I was elected in office, we had meetings with Shore Health. I'm from Wycomico County, so I'm familiar with PRMC and have watched the program as all payer system works to get costs down in the hospital environment by getting community healthcare resources available where they're needed. So do you need a huge multi-story hospital on the Eastern Shore when rather what you need are more effective ways for people to access care on an individual basis, on a local basis, on an as-needed basis, and not on this, everybody has to come to the hospital. So to the extent that I understand the question, being a member of the Dorchester County delegation, we're watching this transform as we speak, how Shore Health is redefining healthcare from, frankly, Kent County down through to Dorchester County, and it usually means that Shore Health is going to move their facility in Dorchester County, have a freestanding medical facility, but it's going to change. It's not going to be the hospital that we've seen in Dorchester County. Talbot County has their needs, their wants, and their expectations for quality in-bed care. They want the emergency, they want the surgery. Those questions and answers also with Centerville, and Senator Eckhart's going to have some opinions on that, how we're moving psych facilities up the road. These are all conversations that go to how can we keep the cost in an all-payer system down, because they only give the hospitals X amount of dollars, and they have to be able to drive their business by staying below the margin, which frankly, I think on the Eastern Shore we do a good job at that. Maddie might have a different opinion, but the long and short of it is, I don't think you'll see a 5 or 6 story hospital being built in the way that you and I are used to seeing it. It's going to be more community-based, more as a person needs immediate care. You're not going to the hospital. We've already seen that, but that's where things are headed because they have to be headed that way in the state based on waiver, based on how we pay for things. And I hope I answered the question responsibly.
I think you were right in the ballpark. Thank you. Yes.
And I'll just say real quickly, I mean, when I say new hospital, the new hospital is a new, I mean, we're moving forward. The design of the hospital is very different. And the delivery of care that we're doing is very different. But that new hospital will be the centerpiece to bring those services that we need. So, yeah, we do need a new hospital. And yeah, there will be, our delivery service is going to change and it's going to improve. But it will not, probably will not fit that traditional notion of a giant rectangular building, you know, up in the air. You know, what we're doing in Washington County right now is building a freestanding facility to provide services and provide just as many services in a new way. And what's going to come to Easton, I don't have the final plans because it changed a couple of times. When Ken comes back, we'll get the latest update on that. And you know, it's one of the things with healthcare, the changing design, and how we're delivering care since this is our, Delegate Adams and myself, we just started our second term, so we've been in office now, this will be our 6th year. I mean, we're talking about new things now in just 6 years. So, I think that hospital concept of being antiquated is not the right way to look at that. You know, think into the future.
Thank you.
Things are always changing, and I think that's a great question. Do we need to continue to provide so many bricks and mortar to be able to deliver the services in the future? Because people are finding that there's a high rate of hospital infections. That's why people are in the community as quickly as possible. And we also know that you can provide care. You can have your hip replaced in the home in the same day. They would let me do it because I'm too old. But I could have if they would have gotten paid. So that was the deal. I had to stay overnight so that the hospital and everybody could get paid. But trust me, I would have done it another way. Because we know now a lot more of what we didn't know before and how we can get our bodies to work better and faster. I think the greater issue is where can we have the services that we need at the right time in the right place at the right time. And how do we do that? How do we do it in a rural area with the transportation costs that we just talked about? How do we do that? And nobody's cracked that nut. So it's more expensive to provide services in the rural area. We still haven't dealt with what are called the social determinants of health. And if anybody wants to know what that is, it's poverty. And we have pockets of deep poverty that have to change if we want to make sure that we can age in place and not go out with a lot of pain and suffering. So yes, can we change the rules that say you can deliver multiple services in the same building? You know, we moved hospital care and subacute care where? To the nursing homes. We moved rehab where? To the nursing homes. We moved respite to the nursing homes. Why don't we move them back in the hospital and use the hospital space and figure out how we do that? Maybe we need to think outside of the box in how we do a number of these things and then figure out what rules have to change to be able to allow adequate reimbursement, compensation, so that we can bring down the overall costs. Buildings cost money. And I can tell you, surgeons, aren't going to want to come to Easton and do hips with obsolete equipment and operating tables. They want state-of-the-art. They can't get it paid for in the hospital, but they can if they do it in an outpatient center. But why do we do that? Why can't we have it all on one campus? And I think that's what we're trying to deal with. So if we can get a 3-day stay and 2-day stay in our freestanding ambulatory centers, then wouldn't that be a better utilization of our funds in some of our smaller areas? And then put robust community rehab, psychosocial rehab programs, crisis stabilization closer to where the people need it. So you don't need to have a big inpatient service anywhere. You can provide what you can in the community and then congregate greater numbers of the advanced higher end services in a place where transportation can be provided on spot.
Thank you very much. Very well stated. Let's grab one more question from the floor. This is dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's. My father's 92 years old and dealing with dementia, so my family has been dealing with this for quite some time. So this is a question that is near and dear to me personally. How do we work to improve early detection of Alzheimer's and dementia? So why don't we go back to Delegate Knowles on this question, since you planned to ask one.
I'm going to put this one too. Well, actually, Senator, you dementia care? Yeah, well, let's let Senator because I'll give you an answer, but I think Senator should probably look more background.
First of all, I'm with our delivery of mental health services and substance use. All of that comes under the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, and one of the things we've included in that is everything from pregnant moms to seniors to hospice care to L&Bs, local management boards, to the mental health authority. But particularly, I think it's important to get the early diagnosis, and I think it's important we don't have to have more caregivers. Our few specialists in Jarrow's site have left us for greener pastures, but I hope they come back because I hope it's not as green out there in the west. But we do need more folks on the ground, whether we crank out some more psych nurse practitioners. But the Alzheimer's Association does one heck of a good job with their website and with their information and education. And there's a caregiving program actually on the 5th, which is next week. So be sure to stay tuned for that. If you are noticing any changes in memory or getting mixed up, it's really important to deal with it early. We run an early onset support group, but it's all done through the Alzheimer's Association. So we have a coordinator with Shore who does the training, and we're able to be able to get those support groups. And I'm telling you, that's been a very wonderful experience. And what we find that we need are more facilities that are Alzheimer dementia care friendly. I think Talbot County has a group of people who would like to make Talbot County kind of a pilot place for folks who are able to really age in place with dementia or Alzheimer's. And that would be a great idea for somebody to put together that team. But there are a lot of resources available, both midshore and lower shore. And we have representatives here from the Alzheimer's Association. So that is really important because there are new developments coming out, but there are a lot of things that can be put in place to at least make it a more comfortable journey, because it is a journey and you have to be prepared for that journey, all of us.
Thank you. What we're going to do now is thank you all for your questions. We've come to the end of our prepared questions at this time. What we're going to do as a closing is allow each of our, first of all, let's give them a big round of applause. We're going to allow each of our panelists 5 minutes to kind of freelance, Tony, if you want to, and just talk to the audience about anything around the subject matter that you touched on. And we did touch on quite a bit over the last hour we've been here. So if you want to go ahead and kick us off.
I'm a freelance.
So go ahead, sir. Thank you very much.
And I apologize because some of the answers were kind of proffered to us, but I wasn't quite simple enough to put them all together. And also, I try to, when I'm in person, I try to give a more specific answer, something personal that you may not otherwise expect to hear. But it's an honor to be here, and I appreciate all the help because I see everybody in the room has helped me out over the past 5 years, and you all helped me out so much, and I'm grateful for it. Healthcare is very complicated, and I don't think it's going to get any more simpler in the future. But this coming year, this session, we are facing a lot of changes. And I can't predict fair weather, and I cannot predict storms, but I can just predict there's a lot that's going to happen in Annapolis. We have a new speaker, and we have a new Senate president. And we've already heard about some pretty aggressive plans to do things with spending and the budget. And when those things happen and the numbers get crunched, I heard Senator Eckert talking about streamlining and combining things. It's been my experience, and I'm not saying this will happen, but we need help, and we need to be sharp this year to make sure things are combined and they are streamlined, or formulas are adjusted, that when those changes take place, they don't have a negative impact on us. Unfortunately, we don't have the numbers, and we don't have the votes over there, but we do have the arguments, and we've got the people who will do the work to make the arguments, to make our best argument. But we need to be on our guard to make sure that none of our programs are changed or eliminated or underfunded or combined, and we need to do the best we can if there are any changes in negative funding formulas. I've been preparing, I don't know, mentally, and maybe I'm doing like a little personal confession. I think this year is going to be extremely challenging, and I feel very comfortable in the fact that both Delegate Adams and myself have had at least a term to get ready for this year, because there's a whole slew of new delegates that were just elected. They've got 1 year under their belt, and right now they're walking around probably pounding their chest. And they're delegates and they're going to change the world. They're about to find out the second year can be really, really frustrating. So I think this coming session is going to be very interesting, and there will be some good ideas, and hopefully they will succeed, and there'll be some bad ideas, and hopefully they'll fail. But I just want to continue to ask you to keep your eye on emails and calls and things that you hear that will have a negative impact on our community, so you can let us know and call us directly or send us an email, because I think this session is a session we're going to see a lot of changes. I know one thing, and Chalmie and I still haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about it, but was a senior nutrition program, and the funding formula changed for that. And that's a big problem, but that was in the works for a year's coming. And our challenge now is how do we fix that, or how do we adjust for that? It affected all the counties on the shore. And so I don't know what that resolution is going to be, but there are a lot of things like that issue that are potential for change, and it affects everybody. And so I just want to say thank you again. I'll put that thought in your head to keep your ear to the ground this coming session, and I'll pass the microphone.
Thank you, Delegate Adams. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny and Corey, for the opportunity to speak to you tonight and share some thoughts. We're very fortunate to have a delegation that works very hard for you. I've educated myself on a day-to-day basis with Senator Eckhart, which I don't mind saying in any environment that she's a healthcare professional. I know I'm a better listener and a better advocate for healthcare because of her advocacy and many years of being in service. So I've had 5 years. I actually think I feel like I had 10. So it doesn't quite get me there. So let me say, this isn't going to take 5 minutes for me to give you my close. My first bill, and Senator Eckhart helped me with this, was a bill related to our small community pharmacies. We were watching MCOs starting to eliminate people's ability to show up at their local community pharmacy, people that they knew, they loved, they trusted when it came to buying pharmaceuticals. And the companies were making it so you could only go to the big boys, Rite Aids, Walgreens, CVS, these sort of things. So just on its face, I had a problem watching that happen. Now, as a free market participant, I'm not against the idea of having these companies participate, and I myself go to CVS when I need to, but I believe in consumer choice. And so that first bill speaks generally to those same concerns that you have, that we talk about on a regular basis in the rural part of our state. How do we live the lives that we love to live in a rural part of our state when we need certain quality of life and quality of care? Everything that I do as a rural representative, which is as a business owner, as an employer, as a dad, as a husband, and as a legislator, is born through the idea of we have to defend our rural way of life, those things that we value that frankly is sometimes hard to share with our friends from Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and Baltimore City by nature, because they're from an urban part of the state. They don't have those same issues we have. The fights we have aren't Republican, Democrat. They're not issues that we can't resolve. They become more of rural versus urban, sharing why things matter to us. And on its margin, we can gain great success, and I fight on a regular basis. As I close, I serve on the Economic Matters Committee, And I talk regularly about the state that I love and that we all love, and we have high aspirational goals for our state, whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's the environment, Chesapeake Bay, whether it's infrastructure, so transportation, and those things come at an expense. And I like the fact that we have a governor for the past 4 years, now in his second term, who's very aware and very responsible with your dollars through his budgeting, and willing to stand firm against tax increases, fee increases, things that add to everybody's cost of living here on the Eastern Shore and throughout the state. But also understanding the importance of the small business owner, of the economic community that we live in, because this is how we deliver payroll taxes, this is how we deliver corporate income taxes. These are the means by which we achieve those goals that matter to each one of you as we talk about things like transportation, as we talk about things like access to care. These things come through the good investment of our state of Maryland. Larry Hogan has done just a wonderful job, and I'm proud to stand in every one of his budgets and support those in a way that share values of a conservative with your dollars. And as we move to the session this year, when we talk about education, we talk about structural deficits, just know that in our heart, we want to do things right by the citizens of the shore. We need to make sure that we're responsible with the money, but we do have priorities, and this delegation has it right when it comes to making those right priorities happen. And when we can't, just know we're fighting very hard for you. So thank you, delegation, for that. Thank you, Corey, and thank you for the group for the opportunity to spend a few moments with you tonight.
Senator.
Thank you very much. You've all brought me the ideas that I carried to Annapolis, so I want to say thank you as well. And then I have a charge. I think you've heard enough from me and my passion tonight. I almost live, sleep, eat, and breathe healthcare, behavioral health, and I'm trying to think through where do we get the biggest return on our investment, because a lot of things that we've been doing for years just aren't making a difference. I mean, look at the opiate crisis. I mean, suicide's as high as it's ever been, and it's in our senior population, and it's our kids. So we're not even talking about that. We have a lot of kids coming into the system who just are not socialized. So what are we doing about that? So it's how we look at early life to end of life issues, and then how we address it. We know that people will have brain impairment if there's been trauma somewhere between before birth and 3. We know that in that population of people who experience trauma, they are set for chronic disease in their lifetime. That can be changed. And that's all of the things we've been talking about. So how do we do that is what I struggle with, and what I worry about at night, and what I think about at night, and what I get involved in. You all have a wonderful opportunity right here in Talbot County, and this will be my charge. You have ACTS at Bailey Chase, you have Hartfields, you have some continuing care facilities, and you have a wonderful Talbot County Commission on Aging. And it would be, and I don't know, I haven't been to any of your meetings except this one, and you have hospice, and you have palliative care, you have, and a wonderful health department. You have some great resources. How we put our heads together to figure out how we build on what we do well and expand it to accommodate the needs of our community right where we are, because that's what will make the difference. And so I just throw it back to you all, and then if there are legislative implications on that, let us know. Individuals still struggle where to get access to care. I know I won't put anybody on the spot, but we have folks in the room who have struggled. All of us wind up with a parent or a brother or a sister who all of a sudden has a catastrophic event, And then we are grappling with where do we go for help. It's not easy to do alone. We all need a coach. We all need a support system to be able to go, to be able to provide the care that we need for our loved ones. How do we do that better? What can we put in place right here that will work and build on what we already have? So I'll leave you with that.
Well, thank you very much. And again, before I turn it back over to Jennifer and her staff, let me first just recognize a few people who are also here with us. We have Mr. Gary Gunther here. Gary is the Executive Director of the Upper Shore Aging. Gary, would you mind standing and waiting, please? We also have our librarian with us, Dana Newman is here. She's always a strong advocate for senior programming here in Talbot County. Let me go around and hit some of your other local elected officials that are also here with us. Mr. Mike Bibb is here from the town of St. Michael's. Mike. Newly elected Don Abatello is here from the town of Easton. John Stefano, John Ford, President was here with us. Mr. Ron Ing was also here with us from Easton. And my dear friend, Ms. Tanya Pritchard is also here with us. Tanya, good to see you. Jennifer, I want to thank you and your staff, Lauren and Lee, for inviting me to be a part of this. This was a wonderful evening. I think we just hit the iceberg, tip of the iceberg on a number of subjects. We could have probably gone on for quite some time. But in my closing, let me just say that to Ms. Brooks, Charlie Brooks and her staff, whether she's ducking around the corner, there she is. Thank you very much for holding us. Let me also recognize County Manager Andy Hollis is also here with us in the back of the room. Thank you all for being here with us, and Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you for closing.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. As Corey said, my name is Jenna Markey with the Talbot County Commission on Aging. We're the ones that hosted this event. We hope to do it again. So if you have any feedback, you can go, we gave you all a little sheet on your way in. You can go visit our website, which is talbotsenior.com. You can search us on Facebook, you can send us an email at info@talbotsenior.com. And just really briefly, Corey, thank you so much for coming and moderating. Obviously, all our legislators, Addie, Johnny, Chris, thank you so much. We appreciate their time. We know how limited it is. Of course, also thank you to Talbot and Brooklyn's Place for hosting us. We're always looking for new members on the commission, so if you're interested in more information, you can also find that on our website. And on your way out, in case you need a senior center bulletin or want to find out about any programming here, there's some on the table as well as some upcoming sessions with Midshore Pro Bono here at the facility. So thank you so much.